Hi, everybody. So, in this assignment, I think one of the most important things that you're going to be able to see is how easy it is to take a simple geometric form like a cube or a rectangle and turn it into something else, like a table or a chair or a sofa, and how these simple shapes just create everything that we see in perspective. And if you keep thinking of that throughout the class, I think you'll find it very useful and helpful in terms of making things start to look more recognizable. So going from the 1 point exercise that we did previously with the cubes and shapes and triangles, you know, and just making those in perspective, and then taking that idea and just creating this interior drawing here. The other thing that I think is really important for this particular exercise is the idea of creating a footprint, which I'll talk more about as we go through everyone's drawings. It's a concept that if you remember that from this assignment, it's going to be very helpful for figuring out how to do the perspective for the rest of this class. The things that are less important that I don't think matter so much is the idea of mm, the elevation and the plan view. We're not going to be doing elevations anymore in the class. And the plan view, I think, is useful in understanding how it relates to your perspective. But you'll be able to do the plan view pretty much within the perspective that we're doing. So not so important for you to really, I think, really totally, if you were struggling a little bit with kind of orienting, especially to the elevation view, it's not so important moving forward because this is the only time we're going to really be doing that in the class. Um, Okay, so that's all I really wanted to say. Let's get started with working on everybody's individual submissions. Okay, Jesus. All right, so it looks like you've got some objects here, a rectangle, sort of some kind of interesting shape here, a lamp, looks like a window here. And let's see, so this is the direction we're looking at right here. So this is your view of this wall, which that looks good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think everything looks really good here. Very, and then looking at the plan views, so we've got this here. Yep, that all so it looks like you've correlated everything correctly, and it looks like you have your perspective. So this is your perspective view. That also, yeah, looks very accurate. Yeah, I would say everything looks right on track here. So in terms of how could you improve this, I would say just working a little bit more on the craft of the line. I find when I'm working on a drawing that my first draft often gets a little bit overworked just because I'm working to understand the concept. So this could be something where maybe you print this out again, take your composition as is, and just draw the lines again, just kind of, making them, cleaning them up as you go, making them nice and even, making sure to, show your guidelines as you go. Maybe too, your presentation I think looks really good, although it looks like maybe the contrast got a little high, like in the sense that we've lost a little, like can you see how this looks like, it almost looks like an ink drawing rather than a pencil drawing. Sometimes again that's caused by the contrast being a little too high. So when you Photoshop it, you just want to, pull back a little bit on your adjustments to get a little bit more of the gray back in. Or if you're scanning it, sometimes the settings on your scanner can be a little high in terms of contrast, so you can kind of adjust those. So I might work on that. You have a little bit of room in your composition. You could maybe add another element, like maybe back here, like maybe just something small, like a little shelving unit or a desk, or some little bench or something like that that you could add to fill that space out. Okay, Carol. Yeah, so you mentioned that you were having some problems scanning. Um, and that happens a lot actually when you have artwork or drawings that's a little larger than your scanning bed. What do you do? Well, there's actually a really good solution for that within Photoshop. And I just posted a tutorial in my comments. You'll have seen that on how to merge your files together in from scan. So what you do is you're going to scan your whole drawing in different parts and then put it together in Photoshop. It's really cool. I do that all the time. And I posted a tutorial. It's good for a lot of different versions of Photoshop, so just ignore if it says Photoshop 6 because it'll definitely work in other versions. So give that a try, and I think you'll find that really useful for upcoming drawings as well. Otherwise, I think, with the exception of it being cut off, your presentation does look good here, but definitely you want to get this little bit here corrected. Okay, so let's take a look at your drawing. So you've got some nice components here. And let's see. So in your plan view, so this is actually the plan view. So this is where you're actually going to be looking at the floor. Okay, so it looks like you did this as an elevation view. Maybe it almost looks, yeah, it looks like you switched these. So the plan view is down here, looking downwards. The elevation view, where you're looking at a wall, is here. So that's where you're going to look at this wall right here. Okay, so I would just, reconfigure that. In terms of your perspective here, I think overall it looks really good. This is a very nice element here. I like what you did. Yeah, all of these look really good. Your chair, yeah, that looks really good. Very nice. Nice job here. Yeah, you've got some nice details in your composition. You've got a window, a door. Okay, so that's all I think you need to do here is just work on this one. I think this looks great. And, just work on getting that little last bit of your paper onto the drawing with Photo Merge. Okay, Alexandra. Okay, so in yours, the first thing I would do here is just go up to Image and try doing either one of these three. Let's try an auto color. That's a lightening it a bit. Let's try auto contrast. See if that. Uh, mm, so you might want to try doing levels here as well to see if you can just kind of lighten the paper a little bit. Just something like that, just to kind of get it just a little lighter. That would probably do it. Okay, let's just enlarge this a bit. Okay, all right. So your perspective view here, yeah, you've got some nice details here. I like all of the elements you added. They look good. And let's see here. Overall, I think your perspective looks pretty good. I think that, so this line of your bed at the bottom, I would just straighten that out, take a line right from your perspective line so it should join up more um, like so. Let me just take a line right through here to that edge. You can see how, it's very close there, but you can start seeing that you can start noticing when the perspective is a little bit off, like a tiny bit off, like in that case. Let me just undo this here. And when you get very close to the wall, as you noticed, it can get a little harder to draw. So you have to be really kind of careful with this, like right here, this line right here. You might just want to touch that up here, the line that's going backwards to the wall along this cabinet, like tidy that up. Same here. This is going to come down. Let's see, we can really see it when you zoom in, which I know is hard when you're drawing, but you can sort of see here that it's actually going to kind of come up like so, a little bit more at an angle in both those places. And so we're also, it looks like, I see. So it looks like you're actually maybe showing the inside. So this little kind of inside line in here, right here that you've drawn, I would probably be inclined to just take that out because I think it gets a little confusing. Like the line right in here, this line and this line, and just let the front of the cabinet be showing without the interior lines in this case, um, if that makes sense. And uh, okay, yeah, I think everything else looks good. Again, it's probably just, you were drawing and working out the drawing as you went, and sometimes things get a little bit kind of wonky when you do that normally because you're kind of learning and drawing at the same time. So sometimes I would just recommend print out the drawing again and just redo it really quickly using your composition, so that you can get rid of some of these dark lines and just really kind of really perfect your line work. Otherwise, again, I think your composition looks really good, and overall your composition or your understanding of perspective looks good. So, and then for your bed plan view, that looks good. You might just want to darken up this shape here, right here, over here. Otherwise, I think that looks good. And then your perspective view. So your perspective view is actually going to be, it gets a little confusing because we do have two perspective views here. We have this view and this view. How do you tell the difference? This one only has 4 squares in the grid across, counting them 1, 2, 3, 4, and this side has 5. So this view is the left wall. It only has 4 squares. So okay, I see. It looks like maybe it's just, so this is your wall there. So what's going to happen here? So this what's happening here is the bed is going to be really hiding some of your elements. So let's see. So this kind of comes down, this is coming down to here. So the bed is actually looks like 1 cube wide. Let's just see here. So we're actually going to be seeing it from the back here. And then let's just go across here and see where it's going to end. So it's going to end up right about sort of maybe 1 1/3 or so. So it's actually going to be, let's see, here. This is where the bed is going to be. What is that, right? Like so. So it's going to fill in this space right here. So that's your bed. And then you're going to see the bench behind it. So that bench, so we're not going to see the bench here, this part that we're seeing, because the bed is hiding it. If you imagine you're standing right here looking at the back of the bed and then looking at the rest of the wall. So we would actually maybe see this element, maybe this element, a little bit of this element, and a little bit of the bench. So I would just kind of keep working on that. And then you wouldn't be seeing any of the side of the bed, right? Um, okay, so I hope that's helpful. I would just kind of keep, I think you're almost there. You just need to rework this guy a little bit more, kind of clean this up a little bit more, and then you're done. Okay, Patricia, so like previous assignment, you want to make sure that you're saving your file as a JPEG rather than a PDF file. If you need help with doing that, just let me know, but hopefully it's just a matter of when you save from Photoshop, that you're saving it as a JPEG. It just makes it a lot easier to work with the file. Okay, okay, okay. The other thing too is, when you're scanning or photographing, just like Jesus, watch that you're not over, contrasting it, like raising the contrast so high that it starts looking just black and white. You want some of the gray of the pencil lines in there in order to really see the drawing. Otherwise, again, it starts looking, you start losing guidelines and it's a little harder to see. Okay, let's start with this drawing. So let's see if you mentioned anything in here. No, okay. All right. So, okay, so yeah, you've got some interesting elements here. It's a little hard to see what some of these elements are, like what's happening here. So you might want to clarify that a little bit more. Looks like maybe we're in a bathroom. I would say, so just when you're learning perspective, like you probably heard me say in the previous critique, keep it simple. Work with rectangular objects. It makes it so much easier, like cabinets, shelves, really simple furniture with rectangles. Like I like what you started doing here with the rug. Here's your VP. Just make sure that you're really accurately working. Can you see that? So this line looks really accurate here, but this line right here looks a little off. You see there that you want to straighten that up. Let me just get a little bit of a bigger line here. With your cabinet here, so with the footprint, so when you're working, I mentioned in the intro that you want to work with a footprint, and what essentially that means is that you start somewhere on the floor, like for example, let's just make a little box here. So you start working, I'm working directly on the ground, which is my footprint. And so I build things. This is how you get things working well in perspective, is you start by blocking things out on the ground. And then once you've got it blocked out, you can start building upwards. But you know where the footprint is. So now we can come back here and start building, and we know exactly where everything is going to be, so we can start building all of the different elements across. So that's one of the main things you want to do here. So I would encourage you to start, working with your footprint, maybe adding some more elements in this space, building it out a little bit. Um, you know, I think you've got a good start here. It's always hard to, when you're close to the wall, to make something recede, because of the, as you get up here, your lines get so kind of tight. So I would start by building some shapes here, out here in the space, closer to us, until you get really comfortable with making things recede in space. Then you can maybe start going into the back wall here. But what I'd recommend doing is just printing out a new piece of paper, and then just again start by blocking in some really basic geometric shapes, and just building on the rectangle or the square. Um, okay, and let's see here. So, okay, so I think you've got a good start here with the plan view. This looks, you're starting to get a sense of that, and it just kind of use the ground here, the squares here, to help you plan things out. Like, so where is this rug going to be? It's approximately, it looks like it's actually going to start right about here on this line, right back here. Let me get a little bit of a bigger line here. And it seems like it's really kind of going to be, it's going to go to, looks like all the way back here and here. Maybe it goes just a tiny bit more this way. So that's actually where it should be placed based on your perspective drawing. So, and I think you need to do the rest of these as well. So I'd keep working on that. And same with this, I think you need to work on this a little bit more. I'm not quite sure what this element is. Again, try to just avoid doing anything circular. This is in the right place, which is good. And I think this is in the right place, which is great. But this looks like maybe it's off a little bit. So again, I would follow the video tutorial. What I'd recommend doing is taking and just walking along. And I'd recommend this for everybody, using the video tutorial and just walking through that a couple times, just drawing along with it, and then starting your own drawing. Again, just working on the basic shapes, and leaving all those nice sort of curving lines and everything for, you could say, perspective 102 or advanced perspective. But in terms of this class, we are going to be doing a little bit of ellipses later on in the class, but maybe just leave it at that in terms of, any kind of curving lines.